Call the meeting to order. This is the February 26, 2019 meeting of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission for the Town of Fairfield. First item on our agenda are the meeting minutes from January 22nd, 2019.
I move that we approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Corcoran, seconded by Commissioner Francis. Does anyone have any points for discussion or corrections on those? Okay, looks good to me. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Those minutes are approved unanimously. The next matter on our agenda is a closed executive session to discuss pending litigation regarding 766 780 Old Post Road. And I'll adjourn the meeting for executive session. You want a motion to go into executive session? All right. So we'll go back on the record. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion so moved.
So moved by Commissioner McAleese, seconded by Commissioner Corcoran. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We're in executive session. All right. I'll call the meeting back to order. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Okay. Motion to come out of executive session by Commissioner Corcoran, second by Commissioner Noonan. No motions were made. No votes were taken. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, we're back on the regular session. Next item on the agenda is new applications to recommend a public hearing. First is 1101 Harbor Road, coastal site plan application of 1101 Harbor Road LLC, pertaining to waterfront improvements with proposal of land donation to the town for enhanced public access in the R3 zone.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is a little bit of a unique application in that normally a coastal site plan is an administrative application, but this application involves a proposed swap of an existing easement for some actual land to be designated to the town for public access. It's the last property on the left at the terminus of Harbor Road, adjacent to a piece of town land presently. But because there's some unique interplay here, the applicant is requesting a public hearing, so they have an opportunity to explain why they think this land proposal should move forward.
Right, as opposed to it simply being on our number 4 compliance.
Correct.
Coastal site plans. Very good.
So we agree, and we think that's a good idea.
Okay, so the office recommends that we have a public hearing. It's not necessary under the rules. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Francis, second by Commissioner Noonan to move to public hearing. Does anyone have any questions?
Has there been an application?
Has there been an
Yeah, we have an application.
Okay, we'll get that in the packet for when it's scheduled. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it's moved to public hearing unanimously. Next is old business. The first is zoning regulation amendment, application of Sacred Heart University to amend section 5.2.5 of the zoning regulations.
Okay, this was heard back on January 22nd. Seems like a long time since then, but here we are. Sacred Heart University is applying to amend the regulations such that structured parking for college or university use in the R3 zone would not be included in the calculations for lot coverage and total floor area. It is important to note that the pending special exception application for the actual construction of a parking structure is not dependent on this proposal. They made that clear at the public hearing that they've got enough land area if they choose to build this. They don't need the exception. The total area of the parking structure is proposed as approximately 140,347 square feet, or 4% of the total floor area permitted. The lot coverage proposed is 1.4% of the permitted. The university is making housing their students on their campus a priority, and the ability to exclude structured parking from those calculations would help accomplish that objective and at the same time provide additional parking needed on campus. The standards for consideration for a regulation amendment should be familiar to you. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the plan of conservation development? Number two, does time, experience, and responsible planning for contemporary or future conditions reasonably indicate the need for the proposed amendment? Number three, has it been demonstrated that the proposal is warranted and would serve the general health, welfare, and safety of the town? Number four, would the proposed amendment promote a level of development that would serve to protect the property values in the neighborhood and enhance the community? And number five, would the proposed regulation amendment permit a level of development that would increase undue traffic congestion? Now, it should be noted, while it wasn't discussed specifically at the hearing, that this proposal would not impact the floor area calculations for existing structures at the former GE property, or the west campus of Sacred Heart. Those existing parking structures were already excluded from those FAR calculations when GE was built, because they are considered basements below the buildings, and they are already excluded from that calculation. So it wouldn't have an impact on that. And additionally, if you think it's appropriate, you could also give consideration to potentially capping the total square footage that would be eligible for an exemption, if that is something you want to talk about. But other than that, that's all I have at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you. So,
Excuse me, I'd like to make a motion to approve for discussion purposes.
motion to approve by Commissioner McAleese. Second by Commissioner Corcoran. You want-
Sure. Thank you. I have no issues with this project. I like the design in particular. I see the need for it so that the university can carry forward with their housing demands. I am concerned, however, with the possibility of additional parking garages, so I like the discussion about capping it, and I would propose to perhaps put a 5% cap on the, I forget which figure that was. I guess that was
The
the
total floor
total floor area. But beyond that, I have no issues with the project.
When you say you like the project, do you mean the parking garage proposal that is,
Separate from the, yeah.
right? So this, and just to be clear, this regulation amendment is not necessary for us to, once that public hearing closes tonight, which it will, when we consider that on our next meeting in executive session, we don't need this amendment to approve that project, that application. This is for their future planning, and so that their master plan can come together. Their master plan can come together. So, yeah. Commissioner Corcoran?
My concern is that no one has that future plan yet. So we're kind of opening up something that we don't know how big future floor area might be, which would lead me to want to put a cap on it.
Yeah, I mean, we do. They've come in a number of times with, you know, sort of a broader master plan in various stages. I don't think that they walked through that for this parking structure, but it was, what,
No, they
2
did.
meet's ago?
No, they did.
Was
As
this-
part of
this one as
the
well?
presentation for this, they showed you what their ultimate build-out
Yeah.
is for this piece, and it's basically 3 additional residential buildings. They did kind of a fly-through on their
Yes, okay, I remember.
PowerPoint presentation, is what they envision is
Mhm.
their build-out of this portion of their campus is with residential construction, and they couldn't do both. They would run out of floor area to do their build-out of their projected residential buildings and the parking structure. So while it's true that they could build this parking structure without the benefit of an amendment, they then have to choose between the
Different
build-out of the
competing
residential piece versus parking and those issues.
So would the 5% cap that that has been suggested, would that make possible the plan that they put forward in the overview?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Because they could ask for a further amendment if they needed more.
Right, so I mean, my personal view is that I think this is, this makes sense to me. I think that the plan is very thoughtful and thorough. It's an investment and improvement in, a local university, an asset to our town. They need to stay competitive, and I like the idea of the cap, personally. And if there's a problem, then they can always come back, but, Comments? Any other comments? How does the GE, what is the other?
The West Campus.
The West Campus. How does that not, how is that excluded? It's certain of the parking structure is not in the basement.
What's that?
Certain of the parking structures are not
Yeah,
in the basement.
When that we went back and looked at the files for both the original corporate headquarters construction in the 70s and then the subsequent corporate guest facility that was built, and then most recently in 2002, there was an application to redo their security toll booth, if you will. And all of those, in looking at how that was consistently calculated through all of those applications, the parking structures were excluded from the total floor area because they were considered basements. Now, not all of that space may be underground, but that's how the commission viewed it in 1972 when it was originally approved. And the calculations, this was about 400,000 square feet of, one of the buildings has one layer of parking below, the other has two.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How does this affect Fairfield U?
It does
I
not.
don't think it does, yeah.
They're limiting this proposal to the R3 zone, Fairfield U's in AA.
So do we need to amend the?
Right, so a friendly amendment to your motion to approve to cap, at a cap of 5%?
Yes.
Yes, and you approve?
Yes.
Okay, so you have that amendment?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion with the condition, with amendment, I guess the amendment to the regulation is approved unanimously. Next is compliances and coastal site plans. First is 348 Blackrock Turnpike, application of Blackrock Soho Inc. for a roof over an existing outdoor dining patio in the design commercial district.
Okay, this is Blackrock Oyster Bar. This application proposes to provide a roof over an existing outdoor dining patio. The patio is not proposed to be expanded. There was a variance issued back in December for street line setback and side yard setback for this roof. This was tabled back on the 22nd of January. There were some questions about how they were portraying the renderings in the wall. There is no change to the proposal for the patio. There's some photographs that are in the packet that show the existing height of that wall that you may or may not have in front of you. I have copies from the last time. But the exterior of that wall, from the inside of the patio, the wall is about 3 courses of block high. From the outside, it does act as a retaining wall, so it's a bit higher, but it's not as high as it's portrayed in that drawing. And they are not proposing to modify the existing wall. So that was one of the areas of concern that the last time, that drawing did not accurately kind of depict what's there.
Are the posts going to be on the outside of the wall as proposed in the drawing?
Yes, they will. And the wall is not proposed to be changed. The other thing is they are going to go with an asphalt roof. What's kind of depicted in that drawing is a standing seam metal roof. They've changed that to an asphalt shingle roof.
Okay. All right, thank you. Can I have a motion? Motion to approve by Commissioner Levy. Pending motion. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Corcoran. Commissioner Levy, anything to say?
Only that,
Can you use your microphone?
thank you. Well, it would allow for significantly more outdoor dining, which people in this town seem to like. So
Yeah.
I would approve it on that basis.
Okay. Well, the outdoor dining is there now, it's just not covered. So. Anyone else?
This is the usual April to October outdoor dining?
Yes, it would be seasonal, April 1 through the end of October pursuant to the annual renewals.
And there's no, siding, sheet,
No,
enclosed,
they're not
enclosed.
proposing to enclose it,
Could they do that in the future?
not without your authority.
Right.
The dining exists now without a roof?
It does.
Yeah, there are some umbrellas, like basic table umbrellas and that kind of thing.
There's a portion of the front that has kind of a 45-degree, I don't know if you... Yeah, they have basically umbrellas. There's not really, what they're looking to do is do a fixed
Mm-hmm.
roof.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, the motion on the table is to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The application is approved unanimously. Next is 549 Commerce Drive, application of Quasali Staltaro, forgive me, to establish an off-street parking lot.
Okay, this site is currently vacant. It's out front. If you're familiar with Commerce Drive, there's a pole sign for Domestic Kitchens, which is a business towards the back of this long site, but there's a portion of a vacant lot up front. Penske Auto Group is seeking to establish off-site new car inventory storage. Land Rover down the street has a similar parking facility on the adjacent parcel. There's an existing chain link fence around this property that's going to be removed. There's a 10-foot landscaping strip proposed with trees, with a new 18-inch high masonry wall between that landscaping strip and the proposed parking. The other three sides will have a new chain link fence in a gate. It's not for public accessible parking. It's just basically for the Penske Auto Group to have additional space to store new car inventory. There were this was tabled last time, so we didn't have comments yet from the engineering department. We have those now in your packet, and they are recommending some soil testing be done and some manhole and clean-out ports in the detention system be provided. So if you're inclined to approve this, we would recommend that as a condition of approval.
Right. Has the applicant addressed any of that in a revised
It's not
plan?
shown on this plan, but it's easily accomplished.
Okay. And who would ensure that actually happens?
We
Public Works inspection?
we would do a bond for the drainage, and that would get inspected through the engineering department. We don't release, it would be come back before you as a bond release before
Right.
they get final sign-off.
Okay. So we don't have to condition that condition of approval with the provision of a bond that would happen on
That would
that?
just be a standard condition that we would, an administrative condition.
Okay. All right. Very good.
You certainly can include it in the condition of approval.
Okay. Very good. I would recommend that. So, can I have a motion?
Move to approve with conditions stated by staff.
Okay, so that would be those recommended by engineering as well as the posting of a bond to secure the improvements?
Sealed by engineering and...
Microphone, please, I'm sorry.
Yep, thank you.
Move to approve with the recommendations from the engineering department and by staff if needed.
Okay, secured by a bond?
Secured by a bond, yes.
Okay, thank you. Second? Thank you. Second by Commissioner Meyer. Okay, any other comments? Commissioner Francis?
Is there any possibility that we could have a wrought iron fence rather than a chain link, since it's visible from Commerce Drive and we're trying to upgrade this neighborhood with our Commerce Drive overlay?
That's up to you. The fence that is, at least along the street on the adjacent property is, I don't know that it's wrought iron, but it's an aluminum fence that kind of looks like the design of a wrought iron fence rather than chain link.
Right, I wouldn't, I mean, if we are going to consider this, I would not suggest that we impose the obligation of someone to actually install a wrought iron fence, as the costs are for that as compared to other types of fencing are pretty significant.
You could do it like, what I would suggest is like comparable to the adjacent one where they did, there's aluminum fencing that
Right.
Yeah.
mimics the look of a
Yeah.
wrought iron fence.
Now, there is also, there are also other considerations in terms of fencing. Security. A chain link fence provides a different method of security than does, one of these more ornamental, iron, aluminum type of looking fences. And I don't pretend to understand the reason they chose the type of fencing, the height,
Yeah. Good point.
and so forth.
I mean, to the extent
they
that it's
chose.
along the, parallel to the streetscape, I think it would be more pertinent than
Yeah.
fencing that's more at depth into their site.
Yeah.
These auto dealers have such high security on their lots, though, with the
But-
cameras and the sensors, and in the last decade, it's really
Yeah.
upgraded enormously.
So perhaps we could make a condition of approval that for any decorative fencing that is on the streetscape be provided in keeping with the
Yeah, we can,
neighboring fences. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Does that work? Okay.
Yep.
So for decorative or ornamental fencing.
Yeah, and it probably does have to be 8 feet high or something, I would agree with you, but it's pretty poor looking right now, so anything they could do, we're trying to put such effort into that area.
no, I think we can accomplish that with this applicant, yes.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. Very good. So that was Commissioner Noonan. You accept that amendment?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner Meyer? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, any other questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor of this application? Motion to approve with conditions, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next, 1876 Blackrock Turnpike, application of Frank Sabia to establish an indoor recreational use in a portion of an existing building in the design commercial district.
Okay, this building, the building at this location was originally occupied by a bank and a restaurant. This was the site of the old Myro Farms property. It was Citibank and Tomato and Basil for a little while. There's new tenants in there. The bank space has been divided into 2 tenant spaces. One of those tenant spaces is currently occupied by a pet supply retail store. This application seeks to establish a ballet-related fitness use in the remaining approximately 1,900 square feet of that former bank space. The parking requirements for a bank, retail, and fitness uses are the same at 1 parking space per 200 square feet. So the proposed use does not require any additional spaces beyond what the previous use required. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you. Have a motion on this?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Noonan. Second by Commissioner Levy. Thank you. Commissioner Noonan, anything?
Meets our regulations. I see no reason to deny it.
Excellent. Commissioner Levy?
Good use, I concur.
Very good. Any other questions, comments on this? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The application is approved unanimously. Next is 869 Fairfield Beach Road, coastal site plan application of RPM Home Inc. pertaining to the construction of a single-family dwelling in the Beach District.
Okay, this property is actually a consolidation of two former lots into a single parcel. There were 3 dwellings on that property, on those 2 properties in total, that have been demolished, and the applicant is proposing a single dwelling on that consolidated lot. So we're reducing the density in this case from 3 dwellings to 1. That results in a fairly significant improvement to the non-conforming conditions to both lot area, for each of the other lots were non-conforming, and the number of permitted dwellings. So it's a pretty significant movement towards conformity here, or to actually establish conformity. The proposed dwelling meets the criteria of the Beach District and will be a FEMA-compliant elevated structure. You do have in your packet, this was referred to the DEEP in our staff review, both of which conclude there are no anticipated adverse impacts on coastal resources, so we therefore recommend its approval.
Very good, thank you.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Noonan,
Second?
second by Commissioner Corcoran. Thank you. Commissioner Noonan, any comments?
No comments.
Corcoran?
I don't see a problem.
Very good. I'll note that, the CAM report also finds that the proposed project is consistent, and there are no issues cited in the report with any of the regulations. Commissioner Francis?
One question. It says there's going to have a 2-car garage on one side and a 2-car carport on the other side, but the drawings look the same. Is this,
Well, I think it's just deep, they're stacked.
I'd have to look at the floor plan, but there's, the way they're doing, it's an open concept where it is, it's going to be basically a pier foundation. So there's going to be garage doors on the front, but the rest of it is kind of a lattice enclosure.
all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay. Motion is to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The application is approved unanimously. Next is 851 Oldfield Road, coastal site plan application of Pinnacle Peak Inc. pertaining to construction of a 2-family dwelling in the B zone.
Okay, this property is on the southerly side of Oldfield Road in a B resident zone. The applicant has already demolished an existing single-family dwelling and is proposing to build a new 2-family dwelling compliant with the FEMA flood code and the B zone regulations that permit a 2-family dwelling. Similar to the last proposal, this proposal has been reviewed by the DEEP and our own staff. Both of those reviews conclude no anticipated adverse impacts to coastal resources. So we again therefore recommend its approval.
Excellent, thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Noonan, second by Commissioner Corcoran. Any comments?
No comments.
Commissioner Corcoran?
I didn't see any problems.
Excellent. I'll also note that the CAM report provides the same as the last, that all of the issues have been reviewed, no issues with our regulations, all of it is consistent with the master plan, et cetera. Commissioner Francis?
One question. Is there any chance they could use pervious pavers over where the second car is being parked instead of more asphalt?
Could they? You mean in that turnaround area?
Yeah.
Yes, of course they could. It's not required, but we can make that a recommendation. I don't know that we can require them to physically do that, but we can certainly make that a recommendation.
Okay.
There was a lot of asphalt there. All right, thank you.
Okay. I think that we can do that without amending the motion, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Good.
should consider changing, or looking at changing our regulations on that.
Okay, I mean, we have certain
The drainage
Regs
for that parking needs to be detained, so there's underground detention proposed for that impervious pavement. So whether it's a pervious material or not, the drainage will be captured and retained on the site. So there are new standards for on-site capture of all new pervious surfaces to capture that and put it into the ground rather than just having it run off into the street. So whether it's a pervious...
Or my property.
Right, yeah, right. So there is, whether it's a pervious material or impervious material, the drainage will be captured and retained on the site in either case.
So, okay. Any other questions on this? All right. Motion is to approve. Staff will recommend that pervious pavers be used in where possible. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the application is approved unanimously. Next is 50 Sanford Street, application of Amy O'Shea to establish a cafe in a portion of an existing building in the Center Design District.
Okay, this application is for a tenant space in the Galleria building. If you're familiar with that building, it runs all the way between Umpqua Road and Sanford Street. This tenant space was formerly occupied by a retail acting studio that is relocated up to Blackrock Turnpike. And this space fronts on the alley that runs between Umpqua Road and Sanford Street, known as Donnelly Walkway, if you're familiar with that location. The applicant is proposing a wine bar cafe. There'll be very, limited food, so it's primarily a wine bar. This matter was reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals back in February and received a variance because it requires a cafe liquor permit. It is within 1,500 feet of two other cafes and got relief from that requirement, as well as the parking based on the patron floor area versus what the retail calculation was, and they got relief on that requirement as well. So it is a permitted use, in the two elements that would have been problematic have been reviewed and addressed by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Which means that it otherwise complies with our regulations.
Yes, sir.
May I have a motion on this?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Francis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Noonan. Commissioner Francis, any comment?
It sounds like a delightful idea, and I'm surprised there are only two restaurants that have cafe permits in that area, but it sounds wonderful.
Very good.
Be a great addition.
Excellent. Anyone else? Okay. Motion is to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The application is approved unanimously. Next is 2500 Blackrock Turnpike, application of Philip Cerrone Architect on behalf of Lennox Jewelers to establish a retail use in an existing building in the Design Commercial District.
This site is subject to this application is the former HSBC Bank standalone building on Blackrock Turnpike, which is essentially the last commercial building on the right-hand side as you're going north on Blackrock Turnpike. You may recall that this site was denied last year for a zone change to expand parking for a proposed sport-themed bar and restaurant that may be familiar to some of you. This proposal is to utilize the existing building for Lennox Jewelers, which, as I'm sure you know, is a longtime Blackrock Turnpike business. There's two modifications to the building proposed. One is just simply an entry vestibule, primarily for security. And the second is to utilize the existing roof structure that's was the drive-through teller overhang, and basically bring walls down to use that space as the staff office. Otherwise, the building will look from the exterior identical to the way it does now, and the changes will be interior. The parking required for the retail space, including the enclosure, the drive-through, is 19 spaces, and they will have 20 spaces on this plan. They can capture two parallel spaces by the elimination of the drive-through driveway, so they'll have 20 spaces instead of the 19 that's required, so it complies with the parking. And it's, I think, for a site that there were a lot of concerns about challenges of entering and leaving this particular site, this, in my view, couldn't be a better use because it's a fairly low-impact traffic use. So I think this is a pretty good outcome from some of the other options that we've seen on this parcel.
Thank you very much.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Francis. Second by Commissioner Corcoran. Commissioner Francis, any comments?
Well, since I led the opposition to the last use of the site, I'm very pleased to see this. It sounds like a wonderful use. The neighbors would be really happy.
Very good.
It's all our regulations, and it's terrific.
Commissioner Corcoran?
I just wanted to be reminded, this conservation easement we're seeing on the map, that's existing now, right?
Correct.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and so the issue that we had before was the proposal to move the retaining wall to expand the area for parking. That was going to, encroach on this stuff, as well as the use with the lights and the late night and the sound and, it was like the whole package. But this is remarkable. I'm really, I hope everyone supports
Do we have
this.
any input from the neighbors?
No.
And, it's a matter of public record, and I don't see throngs of people out here with pickets. Okay, yes.
Can we, I'm curious about the abandoned handicap spot. They're okay with the handicap parking?
Yes,
Even
there's
abandoned?
two handicap spaces immediately adjacent to the
Yeah.
entrance, and there was a space that was on the opposite end that that's in excess of what the requirements are.
So they only need two?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else have any more questions or comments on this? Okay. The motion is to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The application is approved unanimously. Next, we are up to our public hearing. Sorry for that. We all set with the turnaround? All right, these are yours.
Tell you what, if it was zoned properly,
Yep, Jim. Okay,
if it was zoned properly, there was a couple.
so, first item on our agenda for public hearing is 5151 Park Avenue, special exception application of Sacred Heart University pertaining to the construction of a parking garage in the R3 zone, continued from January 22nd.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, please excuse my cough. For the record, my name is Bill
There
Fitzpatrick.
might be cough drops
I'm
down
an
there.
attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frame, Bologna.
Okay,
We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this evening representing the applicant, Sacred Heart University. Thank you for your positive vote on the text amendment. I think that's a very nice vote of confidence for the university. We appeared before the commission on January 22nd, 2019, presented a special exception application for the proposed parking structure. The commission and the applicant agreed that the public hearing would be held open for the limited purpose of submitting a revised rendering. The revised rendering has been submitted. This is a copy of it in color. I believe it's an attractive rendering as far as parking structures go. Mr. Pat Rose, who designed it from Rose Tizo, is here with me. He and I would be happy to answer any questions the commission has. The only thing I would request, if it's possible, if we could get a vote tonight, that'd be very helpful.
I'm sorry, if we could vote tonight?
Given that we've completed the public hearing last month.
Very good.
No longer is there any subliminal Sacred Heart pioneers.
Patrick Rose from Rose T-Zone Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue. Yeah, we have changed the aluminum mesh screens and their
Yeah.
layout on the building, such are, like I said, in public hearing, they would become more random. There is no letters spelled out.
I see a pattern.
No, there's not even really a pattern. Tried to avoid a pattern. But what it is that we've got rails that run down the building, and then the aluminum mesh screens fit on those rails.
Looks nice, looks nice. It's what we need. It's what we needed. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Very simple.
Yep. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant on this? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Going once, going twice? No? All right. I'll close the public hearing on this application. Next item is 1073 North Benson Road, special exception application of Fairfield University for additions and improvements to 4 existing residence halls in the AA zone.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm pleased to be here tonight representing my alma mater, Fairfield University. With me tonight is Mr. David Frasinelli, who is our Vice President for Facilities Management, and Mr. Kurt Krasinski, who's our Director of Campus Planning and Design, and also working hard while I talk is our architect, Mr. Jose Hernandez of Newman Architects. This application, about a year and a half ago, you approved a very similar application to these for Campion Hall. I hope you've had a chance to see that. It came out well and serves the purposes. So this application is in conjunction with similar plans for improvement to Regis, Jogues, Gonzaga, and Loyola Hall, all like Campion, dormitories located in our freshman quad area of the campus. Jose will walk you very briefly through these. They're pretty straightforward, but the essence of them is at Regis, we're going to create a new entry vestibule at grade with lounges above. That building is, since the 70s, 5 stories and has a height of 44.1 feet. So although we're not exceeding the current height of the building, it matches. We did get a variance back in January from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Jogues is a plan to construct a similar new lounge area and certain facade improvements to the building. As Jose will show you, the primary addition proposed for the lounge at Jogues will be a 1-story addition at approximately 10.5 feet in height. We are improving the facade of the building, which Jose will detail for you. And that curtain wall, which extends out about 8 inches from the building, also occasioned the need for a variance because of the existing height of the building, and we got that in January as well. In Gonzaga, we're modifying, as you'll see, the existing east exterior elevation to allow conversion of 5 existing double occupancy ground floor rooms to a large social lounge that will help maximize, with windows and views to Loyola Boulevard, the opportunity for congregation of the students. And finally, with Loyola, you'll see we're creating in the south quad, facing the quad, an exterior, what we refer to as a stage porch, which will be allowed to be used for functions and events similar to what we did in 2018 at the quad, where we had an outdoor mass for the student body. Before I just have Jose walk you through it, the impetus for this is the same as what provoked the need at Campion. These are freshman dormitories, and Fairfield wants to do everything it can and should do to make sure their incoming freshmen, who will be generally housed in these dormitories, make a proper and happy and productive transition. The biggest challenge we have learned in the first 6 weeks is making freshmen feel engaged with their fellow students. So these lounges being located where they are in high traffic areas with good visibility to the quadrangle play an important function in that regard in terms of an area for students to congregate and enjoy their own and each other's company. That's why we did Campion. Campion has worked out very, very well, and we feel we want to make sure freshmen living in these 4 dorms will have equal opportunity to enjoy those amenities. There's not going to be any change in terms of the quality and harmonization of the quadrangle. All these buildings additions will again conform to the existing building's height and number of stories, and also will have no adverse impact with regard to any off-site locations, since, as I think you all know, these are located in the quadrangle area in a very central area of the campus facing into the quad. And so I'm just going to have Jose walk you through each of them briefly, and then I'll have a few summary remarks.
I'm Jose Hernandez. Excuse me. I'm a principal with Newman Architects. John's done a great job of describing what the project is, the intent of the project, and why we're here tonight. To go back in time, Campion was brought before you. This is how Campion has turned out. It's been well received. It's very simple. the basic approach to Campion as well as the other buildings in the quad were, one, as John said, to bring this sense of unity in terms of enhancing the quality, the aesthetics. That was really done through enhancing the lounges. You can see with Campion, essentially what we did was we took a very bland corner of the building and we enhanced it. The purpose of that, as John, again, thank you, indicated was in a freshman setting, there are times when you want to see and you want to be seen. And again, just to give you some context, here's the quad on campus. And here are the 5 residences of the quad. So all of the enhancements that we come to you with this evening are all internal. So here's the lounge at Jogues. This was the lounge at Campion. The lounge at Loyola. Gonzaga, well, that's going to be the exception. Gonzaga's improvements are still interior to the university, and Regis, the enhancement to the lounges, again, internal to the quad. So, I'm not going to go beyond much more of what John had indicated, but what I will do is walk you through the enhancements to each specific residence. So this is Jogues. What we did was we used Campion and the success of Campion and took that as the kit of parts. So we had some stone that was taken from, well, when I say taken was we used that as the sample model. We did that for the stone, we did that for the aluminum storefront, we did that for the curtain wall. It's insulated glass, insulated metal panels. So it's a very simple palette of materials that work really well at Campion, and we're using those same kit of parts at the others. At no case are we exceeding the height of these additions for the lounges. Usually, typically, we are wrapping the existing lounge, and we've made improvements to make them watertight and to improve the performance of the glass by the glazing. I'm not even going to say the exception, but to be transparent, where we are making the fastener, where we're connecting onto the top of the lounges, that is where we've had to make mechanical attachments to actually wrap it. But in no case are we actually exceeding the height of the roof now. The lounge is a ground floor lounge, and again, we're taking the same cues from the materials we've used. We're taking the existing entry, and that's at this point here. So the lounge was here, the lounge remains here, and we've only enhanced it to make this sense of, it's at the end of the axis of the quad. If there are questions as I'm going through these, please ask.
Yeah, the stair, is it existing here?
Yes.
Is that interior stair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. The next res hall that I'm going to describe is Regis, and here's Regis. Here's the lounge, so that's for context. And again, same kit of parts. We took the same stone that we used at Campion. We're taking the same same storefront, same glazing, same panels. It's a very successful, simple kit of parts that we continue to use, and it's going to bring that sense of unification to the buildings. The lounge was here, and all we're going to do is enhance it. Are there any questions? Okay. Next is Gonzaga. Gonzaga is down here. Again, for context, the campus is south of this. Well, sorry, northeast of this. So here's the campus, here's Jogues. Let me get oriented here, sorry. Yeah, okay, yes, so, there you go. Thank you. So you're coming through here, and so here was Jogues, Campion, Loyola, Gonzaga. So I'm now about to describe Gonzaga to you. Again, for context, here's the bigger picture. And at Gonzaga, same thing. We're opening it up to the lounge, making it this sense of when you're arriving, you can be at these lounges, we're lighting them up. So in that setting, especially this time of year, that quad will, we describe them as almost beacons, because I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity, but Campion was very successful in terms of applying plenty of attention to the lighting to get it right, and it's a very welcoming setting. So that's kind of what we're planning to do with the rest of them. And again, it's the same materials. Here's the lounge, again facing inward to the university. We're picking up those samples of the stone. At the end, there's an existing theater. We're enhancing the entry to that theater. Are there any questions? Yes.
I do have a couple of minor ones.
Sure.
Hold on. I do have a couple of minor questions. The theater entry you're just looking at.
Yes.
So that on the vestibule, I guess on the mezzanine level, is that like a double height space, like clear
Yes.
story lighting?
If you were to walk in right now, you walk into a double height space.
Okay.
And if you're standing outside of it looking at it, you wouldn't know that. And so we took advantage of that double height space to make a statement there.
So that's an existing vestibule, you're just changing the glazing and
Yeah.
to match the other work?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And then on the other end, at the lounge,
Yep.
I'm looking on 201, the north elevation, it looks like that shows glass wrapping the corner.
Yes.
But here it looks like the brick continues down. And I couldn't read this, I think maybe there's something slightly off on this drawing. Because it didn't look like the glass was wrapping completely.
May I approach the table?
Sure.
Oh, thank you.
It's a minor thing, but I just wanted to understand the drawing.
Okay.
Unless maybe we're seeing through the glass. Right here, it looks like there's a brick corner. Like it's not wrapping it. I just wanted to be clear. Again, maybe this was an earlier version and has been corrected or something. January 4th.
I'm thinking we're picking up the same element here. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think the glazing that we can...
This actually goes out past, right, and then returns?
I cannot commit that to you, sorry.
All right, it's a minor point, but I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the drawing. That's okay, thank you.
But that...
That's right.
In fact, the intent, to make it transparent. It's a lounge and to bring the light into it, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then finally, Loyola. Again, here's the lounge. The lounge exists there, and it's the same intent, improve the lounge. And so here we are. All we've done is taken the lounge and we've enhanced it again. Same materials. It's only been, truly in Loyola's case, it was a cosmetic enhancement to improve it. So with that, sorry. And at the, let me get oriented here. So if you're looking at Loyola from the quad and you were to look to the right, there is this one-story addition here, which is not unlike the entry that we did at Gonzaga. It's the same materials, and with that, that's pretty much where we are.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think one thing that's particularly exciting about this is, beyond the main driving purpose that is to provide these areas of socialization for the freshmen, it's going to bring a certain, I think Jose used the term, unity to that internal quad area. by utilizing the same design elements and whatnot. I think it'll be a nice enhancement. Certainly not going to have any adverse impact off campus. I think that Jose and his team sensitively and architecturally work to make sure that this will be attractive, will harmonize with the existing buildings in the quad and around the campus. And again, I leave it with the real driving force here is to make sure that we continue to provide the university in a very competitive marketplace with the finest facilities. And that's a particular emphasis for our freshmen who have during that period of adjustment now an opportunity in these dormitories for good spaces of socialization with good exterior views out onto the quadrangle, a sense of community. And that's what's worked so well for us for Campion, and we think it'll also be as successful here. So we hope you'll see fit to approve these, and we appreciate your time and consideration.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this application? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bob Rogers. I live at 20 College Park Drive. I'd just like to, one, compliment the university, did a great job on the Gonzaga one, and they were a good neighbor in the fact that most of the construction debris and activity, et cetera, was put towards the temporary parking lot that they have outside of Gonzaga. Would obviously like to, see that from a neighborhood point of view can continue to be done. The other thing I'd like to emphasize is that we understand there's a lot of construction going on at Fairfield University, but the abandoned road that parallels College Park is an abandoned road, and one of the approved, there is no approved use for that to be a storage facility. And right at the moment, the university has transformers and a generator that is on there, and would like those removed.
Okay. So could you just clarify? These are transformers and things that are sitting on
Blocks.
On blocks outside.
Yeah, my understanding was that these were previously stored in the old maintenance building, but then when they did the demolition of the maintenance building, that they were looking for a place to put them temporarily. So they chose to do that without talking to College Park, and, they still reside there.
And the abandoned road, is that on the university property?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, but by agreement with the neighbors, it is an abandoned road.
Okay, all right. We'll get some more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's his house, and this is the abandoned road. Here's the dorms.
Very good. Any other members of the public wish to be heard on this? No?
Just want to respond to Mr. Rogers'
Yeah,
comments.
thank
First of all,
you.
we appreciate his good words as far as how we handle the construction at Campion. We will do that here. With regard to
So
the...
can I just stop you there for a minute? So, he's pretty specific, use of internal parking lots for construction, staging and debris and things like that, and so that you're amenable to a condition of approval with that?
Well, I think what he referred to was what he referred to as the access road that for decades has, at one point in time, the road he referred to was an active road at the university. You could come in the Round Hill Road gate and you could transverse that road up to the area of Nolan. As part of one or other, I cannot think which one, approvals by this commission and by the stipulation and agreement of the university, that road was closed. So I don't want to be argumentative with Mr. Rogers, but
No, and right now I'm talking about the other thing, which is the thing he complimented you on.
Yeah,
which
well,
started with,
yes.
Was using the internal parking areas.
Yes.
For staging, construction, debris and the like.
And it was what I said at the beginning, was my intention to say, was we intend to duplicate that process.
Okay. So my question was, would that be an acceptable condition of approval?
I think on the first point is that that doesn't deal with the access road.
No,
but it's a
I'm not
question of-
talking about the access road.
Right, no, we'll get to that. Mr. Fresnelli, the question is utilizing the internal parking lots as staging area for these various dorm projects. That's stipulated, that's agreed.
That's okay? All
Right,
right, good.
that's
Then
fine.
the second issue,
The second issue, the point I want to make is, there is nothing violative of any condition relative to us using for temporary storage of, construction-related material, that access road. What was prohibited and what the university has scrupulously avoided was any utilization of that road as a roadway for traffic. And that was done obviously because the road ran in some proximity to College Park. With all due respect to Mr. Rogers, I don't think it's really fair or reasonable to suggest that for temporary storage of things like generators and whatnot that are being installed, which do not cause any adverse impact, if you've ever seen the screening up there, nor are they operational. I don't think it's really fair or reasonable that the university should be precluded from using that portion of their property, as long as they're in compliance with not using it as a roadway.
sure. Is the equipment there, equipment that is being stored there temporarily pending installation in one
Yes.
of these projects?
Mr. Fresnelli will address that, but yes.
For the record, my name is David Frassinelli. I'm Vice President for Facilities at Fairfield University. The items that are stored there are no generators. There is a switch, I think a couple of switches and a transformer, some combination thereof. Transformer being also a non-PCB containing transformer. I received an email from Mr. Rogers asking about what those were, and I responded what they were, that they were items that had been stored in our barn area and that were relocated to that location, and offered to go to Mr. Rogers' house, and if they were visible from his house, work out some compromise. And unfortunately, I didn't hear back a response after that last email.
Okay,
So.
very good. Is it your belief that they're not visible from his property?
I never actually went to his
You know,
property and
okay.
looked, but
Very good.
would be happy to do that. One of the items is scheduled for reinstallation. The other items, we have no specific timeline as to when they would be reinstalled on campus. They're the dark green boxes that you would expect to see.
I think I'm familiar with them. They're
You
not-
know, I think in general, we do try to work with our neighbors and be good neighbors, and I'd be happy to meet Mr. Rogers at his house and look at it and possibly try and work out some compromise or solution.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we going back and forth?
Well, I think Mr. Rogers wants to respond, and I don't want to be discourteous.
Oh,
Thank you. I was trying to find it because I found it before we came over on this, but just as a correction, the email that came to me basically did say that they were there, that they had there was no offer to come and look, that they had planned uses for 2 of them, and that other than that, there was no plan for the future.
okay. I mean, it sounds like there is the, spirit of polite compromise in the air. I'm sure that the university wants to make things right with their immediate neighbors and adjoining landowners, and I know that you've tried to accommodate that in the past. Could I suggest that
We'll do that, and I
you
would
take up on these offers of getting together, and I'm sure you can come to some arrangement where,
happy
this
to do
is not
that.
an
And I
issue.
would point out that as we've done religiously, it's Fairfield University after all, over all of these years, we did reach out to all of our neighbors. We have regular meetings, so they know what we're coming in with, what it involves, and I think that outreach is indicative of what you see here tonight, and that's with all due respect to Mr. Rogers, and I think Mr. Fresnelli's comments and the chair's comments stand for themselves, and we'll certainly continue to work in that spirit with Mr. Rogers.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else?
No, I
Very
think
good.
We're good.
Excellent. With that, I will close the public hearing on this application. Next is 338 386 Commerce Drive, special exception and coastal site plan application of Belize Motor Sales Company to establish an automobile sales facility and the construction of a new automobile service facility in the design industrial district.
For the record, my name is John Fallon. I am here tonight representing both the applicant and the property owner. With me tonight is Mr. Jeb Belize, who is the principal of Belize Motor Company, one of the most successful and well-respected automobile dealership companies in the Northeast, and also Robert Serrano, who is the general manager of our Belize Hyundai of Fairfield facility. This application seeks special exception and coastal site plan approval with regard to the properties located at 338 and 386 Commerce Drive, in order, as my colleague and friend Pat Rose will review with you in a minute, to establish the construction of a new automobile dealership that will be the new home of Belize Hyundai here in Fairfield. What is proposed is the renovation of an existing building of the property that will, as you'll see, become the very architecturally, I think, attractive home of the new sales dealership, and the construction of a new automotive service facility to the rear of the property. You will recall, those of you that were on the commission in 2014, you granted us an approval to establish the new Hyundai dealership at 386 Commerce Drive. Since then, we had the good fortune to acquire 338, and after consideration, we felt we could make it a better dealership for the community, a more convenient and functional dealership for our customers, by coming back to you with an application that would encompass both 338 and 386. It goes without saying that should you, as we hope you will, approve this application, then we will merge these two lots into one parcel. We're very excited about this. We think the new dealership will be a most attractive addition to the Commerce Drive area, and it's a beautiful new facility. Mr. Belize and his company are very much dedicated and focused on Fairfield. This will give us the opportunity to further expand and even improve the high quality of service that we have endeavored to provide at our existing dealership. And obviously, when you look at what's being proposed here and the investment that's being made, it's a very significant benefit, I think, to the economic vitality of the area and the town as a whole. Now, the property is located in the Design Industrial District, with the Commerce Drive area Design District overlay being applicable as well. As contemplated and as proposed, the new automobile dealership is a permitted use, subject to, in accordance with, I should say, Section 21.3.1 of the regulations. Before I introduce Pat, a few comments with regard to, we did receive an approval in January of this year, January 3rd, from the Zoning Board of Appeals, where they unanimously granted a variance of Section 3.12 in order for us to locate the new service facility, as you can see on the plan, to the rear of the property, as shown on the plans. As you are aware, the Design District overlay establishes a maximum street setback of 18 feet. It does not distinguish, however, between principal buildings and accessory buildings. The existing building, which we will convert into the attractive new dealership, is already at 25.5 feet of the street line. We're not changing that. But the new service facility that we proposed is located to the rear of the property, 226 feet from the property. And that's what we received the variance for unanimously from the ZBA. I respectfully submit, as the ZBA found, that it was not the intention with regard to the adoption of Section 1312 to require an accessory service building, such as the one that's proposed, to be located so proximately to the street line. Both the aesthetics and the function of the overall dealership will be enhanced by the proposed location of the service building as shown on the plans. Whereas the main building will be in the spirit of the regulation because it exists, but it's 25.5 feet from the street line, so it's relatively proximate. And as you will see, and as Pat will review with you, we've made substantial efforts in terms of our landscaping plan and what have you to ensure that the overall aesthetic quality of the new dealership will be an eye-opener, because that's not only in the interest of the town, but it's in our interest as well. And we can do that much better by ensuring, as the ZBA granted, that we can more discreetly locate the service facility to the rear of the property. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Pat Rose of Rose Tiso, who will review with you the site plan and architectural.
Good evening, Patrick Rose from Rose Tiso and Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue, Fairfield. Just like to quickly review what we're proposing for the Hyundai dealership, Belize Hyundai dealership, on the two lots, 338 and 386. The 386 on this side was the previously approved Hyundai dealership, which actually had the building all the way up against the road and then going back with some parking for storage of vehicles. What we're proposing is to enlarge the whole area that we have the ability to put the dealership on by merging both of these lots and using about 10,000 square foot of the first floor of the existing building at 338 for the dealership. In order to do that, what we're doing is lowering the floor on the first floor 3 feet. Been by that piece of property, you'll notice that there's a significant grade change between front of the property and the back of the property. We'll be lowering the first floor of the dealership about 3 feet, raising some of the grade to meet the main entrance into the building. It will allow us to have an on-grade entrance onto the dealership floor, an on-grade entrance onto the dealership floor for cars, and we'll be maintaining this corner protrusion of the building as a higher elevation that exists right now, and we'll be using that for display essentially inside that you can see on that corner. Well,
There won't actually be a second floor. It'll be a two-story,
we're just raising, we're trying to make the ceiling, floor-to-ceiling height taller,
Right.
more in keeping with the dealership where we've got some more space. We still have a second floor of the building that exists on this entire building. This portion of the building here has 2 stories. This portion is 1 story. So the second floor will remain, and this other 1 story will remain. What we're doing is providing the parking for that in the same place that it has been, always been, in the rear of the building. And we're just reconfiguring that parking to be a little more efficient and give us a little more green space. How we're organizing the site is that we're taking this as the main entry to the site, that you come in, there's parking along here for the dealership, and then into the parking lot for the tenant space behind. These areas right here are new car vehicle parking that we have, and also service bay parking, swing spaces, and things like that. At the rear of the site, we have the service facility that will be new. We're using that 5-foot setback that we got from ZBA previously in this location, and it's 226 feet off of the road, which is the recent ZBA approval that we received. We'll have drive-in areas to drop your car off, service write-ups. Then there's a customer lounge in this location. They'll take the car into the service bays. There's 9 service bays and a wash bay where they'll service the car. And then there's a parts area, but you could go purchase parts, so they'll provide them to the service people. And then we'll be coming back out. One of the things that we've done, and it doesn't show in this plan, but we have made sure that we can bring a car carrier onto the site. It can turn here, back up, and return out of the site. We're providing that motion movement for a car carrier on the site. I know that's a concern of everybody, considering all of the vehicle dealers that are there.
But, and there's still an entrance for
There's still this one little entrance over here, which we're maintaining. People use it, especially in the office area, they'll use it to come in. It's only a one-way in.
Yeah, I'd pull in and the car carrier would be pulling out.
The car carrier will be coming out the main entrance here.
Yep.
Okay.
It looks like the dumpsters in the far corners.
There's a dumpster in this location and a dumpster in this
Yeah.
location.
Looks like when the doors open, they impede on the parking spaces there. Are they usable when there are cars parked in those spaces?
These barely impede, this one does, this one's a little bit but the one side can open up completely if there's a car in the other space.
Right. Okay.
Where are the openings for the 9 bays?
I'm sorry?
Where are the openings for the 9 bays?
Oh, the 9 bays, you're driving in here, and then the service bays are interior, and then there's an exit out to bring your car, park the car, bring in the next car to be serviced.
Are you keeping both your inventory for the dealership and cars that you're working on in that lot?
In this location here, yes.
Your whole inventory?
That I can't speak to, and that fluctuates, I'm sure, during the year, and, whether that.
But I think what she's referring to is that there are certain car dealerships in Fairfield that have specific
Offsite.
external lots where they warehouse their inventories of cars, and then they have runners that go, back and forth. And so I think Commissioner Francis started not to put words in your mouth, but,
No,
is...
that's exactly what I meant.
So is the plan for this dealership, for whatever inventory it has, to be, solely on this area, or is there a plan to have a separate lot somewhere else, in Fairfield or elsewhere, where you're going to shuttle cars back and forth?
Right, no, it's our primary intention that the inventory for this dealership will be located here, okay? Belize does have a facility for inventory in Meriden, Connecticut.
Yeah.
But we don't, but we don't anticipate a great deal of give and take, although occasionally, there might be vehicles that we would bring from the Meriden lot here.
Of course.
But we're going to use this primarily for our inventory because we want to sell the cars.
Right, so there's no plan to lease a parking lot, elsewhere in Commerce Drive or across town in Fairfield to be just shuttling cars back and forth on a regular basis?
Correct.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Commissioner Corcoran?
I think perhaps if you could explain, it might help clarify, in the middle there where it says car storage, that's actually, those are triple lot spots, right? So
These are back-to-back.
So Commissioner Francis, if you look there, you'll see.
Yeah, these are all back-to-back spaces, tandem
The three
spaces,
cars there.
Triple spaces,
Triple
actually,
there and two on the
and
other side.
tandems on this
So it's
side.
going to be a mass of cars in that
So,
building.
yeah, and that's why we made the change also, is that we can provide a lot more new car inventory on these 2 lots as opposed to the 1 lot where we had whole buildings on that lot. It made it a lot more difficult to have new car storage on the site.
Yeah, Commissioner Corcoran, now this time.
So I'm thinking about the commercial drive overlay. And, this makes sense. We know what car dealerships look like. We want to see the inventory from the street, but this doesn't seem to be in the spirit at all of our commercial district overlay, which was a different vision altogether of having commercial buildings close to the street and their access and their cars parked in the back. This is just something entirely different.
Well, the main primary building, which is the dealership, as I said, I think is within the spirit of the overlay, insofar as it is located approximately 25 feet from the street line.
But it doesn't face the street. It faces the side. And secondly, the other building is not in the spirit.
Well, the other building is a service facility, and we
Yep.
leave it to you the ZBA felt strongly that, and agreed, that it would not be aesthetically or in the spirit of the overlay to have a service facility so proximate to the street.
Well, if the access was from the rear, it wouldn't,
We didn't think that was particularly functional, or did we think it was aesthetically appropriate? I think what you got to keep in mind here is this is, notwithstanding your overlay, this is a permitted use in the zone. And this is a major corporate citizen in this community, that has roots in this community, that is desirous of making a significant investment relative
Well, that's
to...
a different argument. I
Well,
mean,
it's
what-
my argument, okay, respectfully. It's my argument that with an application such as this, and Pat hasn't even gotten to the elevations here, that what we are proposing to do by way of this investment is exceedingly consistent with, as Ms. Francis said before, the desire to grow and vitalize this important commercial, industrial area of our town.
Well, we put a lot of work into designing what this area would look like with the same goals. But there's a different approach on how to do it.
Well, I have to leave that to you, but I think we've done very, we think very good work. In fact, you may want to discuss the elevations to ensure that this will be a very, very significant enhancement to this area, to this piece. I know you're familiar with this piece. I know you know what's there now. And I know we all know that it's 2019 in the state of Connecticut. And we have an automobile dealer of strong repute and roots in this community.
I'm not against there being a dealership
I'm
there.
not meaning to argue or become emotional about it, but I think you'll have to make a judgment whether you think having the service facility located 18 feet off this property line is consistent with what you're trying to achieve, or whether you think that sends a better message and is more consistent with what we're trying to achieve in this district, inclusive of the overlay.
Well, I think there are a lot more possibilities than what you're envisioning. I mean,
I'm sure you will have...
the service area doesn't have to be on the street.
I don't agree. I respectfully don't agree. But I think...
Microphone, please, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't agree. I respectfully don't agree. I value and respect your opinion, but we differ in our opinion with regard to the benefits to this community, to this area, from this investment by this dealer at this location. And I think what's offered here is consistent with the intent, be it with the overlay or the zone itself, where this is a permitted use, to enhance the economic vitality of the town at a time when that's a primary focus.
But I'm not suggesting that there not be a Hyundai dealership there. I'm just suggesting there not be this one, not this look.
Again, our respectful position is that we think aesthetically this is a much better solution than adherence to an 18-foot street setback for a service facility. And we hope the majority of the commission would agree.
Henry Fallon, quick
Yes,
question.
Mr. Noonan.
Is your position as far as the location of the service area, that the location of it, while it was given a variance, let me try a different way. Did the variance take the location out of our hands, in your view?
Well, I think what the variance, as you heard earlier in some of your work sessions, I think that you would not deny the application for non-compliance with a provision of your regulation that has already received the benefit of a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. I forget what it was in your work session, but that conversation came up in another context, that based upon the action of the ZBA, which is charged with granting variances or not, having granted the variances, that rendered the bill, and I think somebody asked Mr. Wentz, so this is otherwise conforming to our regulations. So to answer your question, I think the law is clear that with the variance having been granted, it would not be an appropriate reason to deny the application because of where the facility, the service facility is located relative to the street.
So the location of the service area is still somewhat in our purview, but we couldn't deny based on the setback.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I would hope, again,
I understand your point, but I just want to get that.
right, you couldn't deny it
simple
because
point
it doesn't
clear.
comply with the setback, and I would hope you would agree with the ZBA that considerations of not only function but also aesthetics render a better location for the service facility to be to the rear.
When you presented this, to the ZBA, you had that in this position here, correct?
Pardon me, I'm sorry, I just...
When you presented this, when you presented to the ZBA, the service area is where you're depicting it now.
Absolutely. So these were the plans that were submitted to the ZBA.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on this point? Otherwise, I think we should move on.
Commissioner Corcoran, was one of your concerns the street elevation of the dealership as well? Yeah,
Right.
because part of the issue there is, if I'm reading the plans correctly, you're maintaining some of the existing tenants, school music, and so their elevations really aren't changing, a few cosmetic changes, but the windows, that elevation, because the focus seemed to be more on the dealership, leaves a little to be desired. I love that elevation. I think it's really very nice, but it is turned toward the parking lot, not toward the street. If perhaps you could do more to bring that around the building and dress up the street elevation more, it might be more palatable.
What I would suggest we might do on that would be to let Pat complete his presentation relative to the elevations, and then we could further that discussion.
Thank you. So just to talk about the building and what we're doing to it in order to make it a dealership, but it doesn't want to look at it right now, it doesn't say dealership to you at all, obviously. There are very small windows around the building in all areas, for the most part. So what we've done is we're going to be taking significant portions of the block walls that exist and removing them, making all these windows larger, making them taller, and providing more glass into the showroom, which is the main feature of this is the showroom. We're doing it both on the front, where we're doing this display area, and a window behind that, which you can't see in this rendering. We'll show you elevation. And then along the side, and the main entrance is a similar ACM panel type that you see in every dealership. Everybody has ACM panels. These are a little different. They're bronze, and they've got this design to them, which is a shaped sky design, they call it, something that Hyundai has used to brand themselves at this point. And I actually, in my packet there, I just give you a picture of an actual installation one, just so you can see it.
Yeah, so that was actually a question. I had this next photo is of an existing Hyundai dealership, it looks like in, up north?
Yeah, I think it's, Burlington.
Burlington, Vermont, right? And to be clear, you're not asking for the approval of any of the signage. This is for the site plan.
The site plan. The signage, we had significant conversations with staff. We've had the signage redone and actually the design of the banding of the building with the ACM panels redone in order to comply with the regulation at this point.
So typically this comes in as an
a separate
application, and then the signage application comes in, secondly. So I just want to be clear in our consideration that, we're looking at the site plan and the signage will be subject of a separate application.
Separate application, but it's part and parcel to the design of the building.
Sure.
In as much as that the banding of where Hyundai is only allowed where the dealership is.
Sure. You changed, you reconfigured certain
Right, we had banding
aspects
up
to try to
high, and we reduced it to where it's supposed to be within the regulation.
Got it. Thank you.
The other thing I'd like to bring just to everybody's consideration, and I know you'll consider this carefully, please keep in mind that this is not a vacant site, okay? What you have here, and again, it gets back respectfully, Mr. Corcoran, to your points about what we're trying to do, what we've been trying to do as a community and as this commission in terms of revitalizing this area, okay? We have an existing building there. It was not economically feasible for us to demolish this building and build a new building, okay? If this was a vacant piece of property, then Mr. Corcoran, and I respect you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the building's here, and it's ugly, and it is contributing nothing. It's a huge anchor to the very things that we're trying to accomplish with the overlay zone. So please take that into consideration too. We're trying to rehab a site, and we don't have the ability, the feasible ability, to just go in there and tear down the building and pretend like there's nothing there. So is this, from your standpoint and maybe others, I hope not too many of us, is this a perfect solution? I think Pat has done a wonderful job with it, but please keep in mind we were hamstrung by the fact that it's an existing building.
I think we understand the point. Thank you.
And Pat, do you have more, please?
Just quickly.
Yeah.
So just to show you what else, this becomes that corner bump out of the building that faces the road, new entrance facility and new windows associated with Hyundai and Hyundai signage on that facade. This becomes the stripe of the ACM panels, the new entryway portal, and then Hyundai on this corner closest to the street. And then that wraps around to here, because that is where the dealership is, that's on the back. So essentially, we're defining where the dealership is with those bronze ACM panels. Just to quickly show you the service building, it's fairly simple. It's ground face block on the bottom to be more durable, horizontal metal panels above, and then in this corner, just in this corner, it wraps around the corner here, the ACM panels with the signage up high. As you can see in the back of this, just in the corner of that rendering. To show you the extent of the showroom extends this entire half of the building, this being that raised display area, and then entrance here to the display floor, offices, conference rooms, and we actually were able to, by lowering the floor, we can have service delivery in this location in the back. And tenants in the first floor area are back in this location. Just, the service facility entrance here, service write-ups, the customer lounge. You can go and get your parts back in this location, and then they bring the car around to the bays, car wash facility, and they take it out front. Fairly straightforward. What we've done, just go back to the site plan, what we did associated with the landscaping is that we provided street trees along Commerce Drive, provided lower landscaping in the locations of where we have display cars shown. We put treed islands in the new car parking areas and created a treed and landscaped island between the tenant parking and the dealership parking. Even though I'm sure there will be some commingling of parking, but and also created a rain garden in the center to collect our storm drainage and going into storm drainage to galleries underneath.
So how many trees in the parking lot, just in terms of our tree regulation for parking lot areas? Do you know what the calculation is?
About 20 trees altogether, I believe.
And how many parking spaces total?
90 plus 105 new car spaces.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Sure.
Above the dealership, who's on the second floor? Is that dealership offices on the second floor?
No, they're tenants on that
Separate
second.
tenant also?
Correct, on the second floor.
On the first floor, then that long hallway is how they access the second floor?
Correct, there's
Not
a
dealership.
stairway in the back, stairway in the front, and an elevator in the front, actually. Correct.
So that's why really the changes to the exterior stop at that raised display area, because that's demarks where, even though if you look at the floor plan, it looks like you guys go into half of the building. But really,
It goes around and back, basically. It's narrower in the front.
yeah, because that front area is
Correct.
for other people.
Correct.
I mean, I've already said it. I think that would be my only concern is the street face is pretty, and the building that's there now is not, it's a pretty bland building facade as it is. And I do like what you've done on the parking side. I just wish I could see more of the glamour, if you will, on the street side, because it's a pretty public, you've got this lovely little restaurant across the street that's been making great strides to do their little bit and change the neighborhood. Unfortunately, you also have the post office across the street, which is no day at the beach, but thank you.
One question.
Commissioner Brandt.
How far back did you say those display cars are from the street line?
18 feet back.
Just 18.
I think so.
Just to get back to
There's
Commissioner
a
Corcoran.
sidewalk, right?
Commissioner Corcoran, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the same thing as you said. What about sidewalks? And I know there's, is there a way to put sidewalks here?
It was a question that came up during our reviews in code, and it was clarified by the town engineer that sidewalks were not being required on this side of Commerce Drive based on the narrowness of the right-of-way.
If you look, Mr. Corcoran,
So, just so we're clear on that, I mean, so
it's the code
that's
note.
meaningless. Okay.
Just for your
Not being
consideration.
required on this side of Commerce Drive?
It's the code notes of November 20, 2018, Ms. Pooley's at Engineering's comment number 1 addresses that. You could look at it, I'm not going to read it to you. But she concludes for the reasons she states that therefore sidewalks should not be required as part of this proposal. And I don't want to read you the whole thing, but you can read it. So that's not our unilateral decision, but, what you decide, you decide. But that we're just following the comments of the engineering department. Are there other questions? Just because I want to get back to one point that Mr. McAleese made.
Sure.
At the risk of, dropping my papers, at the risk of jeopardizing the approval of this project, which I think is so much of an improvement from what's there now, and I mentioned the restaurant, I know they're very excited about this, because what they're trying to do, and I go to that restaurant all the time, and it doesn't create the prettiest view when you're sitting out there looking at across what's there. But what I was going to say, and it was actually just said to me by Mr. Belize, their commitment to doing things the right way is such that we're certainly happy to work with the commission through Pat to try to make further enhancements to the street-facing portion of that existing building, if that helps. Because I understand, and Mr. Belize understands, that what you're desirous of is, notwithstanding the fact that it's an existing building, doing as much as we possibly can to make the street-facing side of that renovated building more dramatic. We're happy to do that too, and one could make an argument that beyond jeopardizing the ultimate approval, it's maybe in our interest to do that too, because the more pizzazz we add, the more attraction it brings to the dealership. So I hope I didn't speak out of turn on that. Oh, that's great. If you want to come up to just identify yourself, Mr. Belize.
Good evening. I'm Jeb Belize from Belize Motor Sales, now a fourth-generation business, and actually it's our 100th year. So our reputation in Massachusetts and Rhode Island is we really do exceed expectations. And if you go to our website and look at our stores and the landscaping, we're pretty famous for going above and beyond. So I wouldn't throw out just simple anecdotes. The only thing about the building is the Hyundai actual ACM panels have to be unique to Hyundai, but I am sure Pat can figure out aesthetically how to bring the rest of the building into the same modern look, which I get. It was funny talking to Peter Penzer. That building was built in 1984, and when it was built, he actually gave it to me. It received an award for the most modern building in its time, and he was laughing about it when he handed it to me. It's tired. It needs a little refreshing up, and I'm sure we can do it and exceed your expectations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really, I think Mr. Belize's comments are as good as any summary I could give. We want this to be, we think it is an attractive design. If we can work with staff and the commission to make it more attractive, especially from the standpoint of the streetscape facing of the building, we want to do that. But I really think it's important, not only to my client and to me, but I think it really is important that we don't jeopardize ultimately getting this approved, because this will, notwithstanding the fact that we've had to work around issues because there is an existing building there, this will have a really positive impact on the Commerce Drive area and this specific property in general.
Yeah.
And I hate to see it lost when so much work has been put into it.
And that's appreciated, and thank you very much for your comments. I think that something that we're reacting to is that there is frontage here on Commerce Drive. And and you have a few cars there on the outside, and I understand you want to keep within the footprint, but you treated that as the side of the building. I mean, even in the rendering, and it looks beautiful from that perspective. And perhaps there is some effort that could be made to treat the frontage on Commerce Drive as an entry to the building, so that it is more of a streetscape. And so, it's something for us all to think about. We obviously have some strong views on all
Can I
around.
just have 1 second before we...
Sure. Cool. No, welcome. Mark School? Yeah. Oh,
They're such gorgeous.
So what I'm confused about is, say they said they're going to put a different facade on the street. How do we get that into the corner?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I've spoken to Mr. Belize, Mr. Rose. If you think it's a good idea, having had the conversation we've had and having us made the assertion and the commitment we have, that we might continue this 2 weeks for the limited purpose of providing a revised street side elevation
Yeah, that'd be great.
that would hopefully address, if imperfectly, but hopefully would address some of the concerns that the commission has about making the street-facing portion of the building more attractive.
That would be wonderful. Really appreciate that. And we just, as I'm sure you know, and I know Mr. Fallon knows, we just spent weeks, months in these public hearings. We've engaged an outside consulting firm to study the transit-oriented design districts, to propose changes to our regulations in the Commerce Drive area to encourage mixed use and streetscapes and all of that good stuff. And so it is without criticism of your intent and your beautification of an existing building, and also bearing in mind the economics of it all, that we say, this looks fantastic, but maybe there are some things that we could do to try to put it more in line with what our long-term vision is trying to be, for the area. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do that. I mean, we hope, and you have, by your remarks, taken some consideration of the fact that we are dealing with an existing building, but we also take consideration of your remarks, Mr. Corcoran's remarks, Mr. McAlee's remarks, that, okay, we get it, but what can you do for us on the street side of the building?
Yeah,
And that's
all
why
right.
I'm thinking the 2 weeks would give us some time to...
That's wonderful.
Material.
And I don't, in light of that, I really don't feel the need to go through it at all. I wasn't going to go through it all, but if you could just take a look at the code enforcement notes.
Right.
And just be sure that there's been a response to everything. I noticed that there were some things that were clear to me, others were not clear, and if there's anything that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident. I'll review again with Mr. Wendt and Ms. Harrigan, but because she was primarily the author of the comments, but that became our roadmap, I think it's fair to say, those code notes for the finalization of this plan. And I think we've addressed those comments, but we'll certainly confirm that
Okay.
with staff.
I presume that we're not complying with the recommendation, or not complying, but not going to raise the building to be 500-year flood,
No.
Very good. Sir, Commissioner Corcoran.
Can you also consider the possibility of sidewalks?
Why don't we talk about that?
I mean, what we'll do, Mr. Corcoran, on that, I
Talk
think...
to Mr. Wendt.
Problem is, it becomes on our property, not
Yeah,
the town's
I think we have right-of-way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll review Ms. Pooley's notes the commission can too. I'll dialogue with staff.
I can talk about it a little bit now if you want to go on the record.
Sure.
Sure, just use a microphone. In case you forgot that you need to do that.
Jim Went for the record. Several years ago, Commerce Drive was widened, and within the right-of-way, the town kind of made a conscious choice as to where improvements should be. With the widening of the road, it required that there wasn't enough room for a sidewalk on both sides of the street. So there's a continuous sidewalk on the southerly side of Commerce Drive, and the widening took place on the northerly portion of the right-of-way, such that there is, if you look at the survey, there's very little space between the edge of the pavement and the property line. Typically, a sidewalk is within the public right-of-way of the street. In this case, if there were to be a sidewalk here, it would be on the private property. Now, that's not unprecedented, but it's also not likely that that would have linkage to additional sidewalk infrastructure on that side of the street. So there is a continuous sidewalk along the opposite side of the street, and that was a conscious choice that was made, you know, when the town, back in the, I don't know, probably close to 20 years ago now, widened that from, you know, to grab an additional lane. So that's the challenge. So ideally, yes, in most commercial zones, that's what we have, sidewalks on each side, and there are opportunities west of here for that to be accomplished, but for this section of the street, that was kind of the choice that was made back in the mid-2000s when the road was widened. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, then,
Marshall?
yeah, with that, I will adjourn the hearing on this, continue the hearing on this until our next session to be scheduled, and there being no other business, I will adjourn the meeting.
So